Listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein. With me, as always, in the booth is...
The other buddy, Mike. Horror man, how you doing?
And we swear we are not zombies today, as we will be covering the George Romero series of zombie films. Now, I know that you did not see all of these before we actually started this podcast. You saw the ones that were worth seeing, and I can't blame you for that.
Yeah. I did not see the two most recent, Diary or Survival, but I'm a big fan of especially the first three. I like the first three quite a bit.
We're only going to really cover the three main, the main ones from Romero. We're not going to delve too deeply into all the fucking remakes because there's a lot of them.
That was a very long Wikipedia page.
We just trying to go through all the remakes of Night of the Living Dead, since it's in the public domain. That is a hellish experience. I've been doing it, but it's a hellish experience. So,
oh man,
but,
that's the Lord's work right there. Good luck.
Thank you. I've been trying. But Romero's interesting because basically his entire career, despite the fact that he directed other shit, is defined by zombies. His 6 main ones, the Crazies as well, a few other things that he did, like zombies. That was him.
Yeah. Pretty much that was he brought us with the modern zombie.
The modern zombie,
pretty much.
And like every time people just debate online whether or not fast or slow zombies are good, what they're really discussing is whether Romero or Snyder zombies are worth watching.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and both of they both have their qualities, I think. Much more threatening, I feel, the slow zombie, just the meandering and just the unstoppable force that keeps coming. But there's something to be said of the ones that, scale walls and climb things. I think to, World War Z with them, making a human, a corpse pile to get over the giant wall and everything, semi-intelligent murder beasts, I guess.
But it doesn't feel like a zombie at that point. The 28 days, 28 weeks later.
28 weeks, yeah.
Those are great films, but they specifically go out of their way to say these are, rage-infected humans. And
yeah, it's a virus more so than something else. And very interesting in the original Night of the Living Dead where they say, this is radiation caused by a probe from Venus, which I thought was a nice little touch.
1950 sci-fi. That was still the theories they were playing on. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I loved it.
You will note that when the 70s came around and they did Dawn of the Dead, they didn't bother trying to explain it at all. They're just like, we don't fucking know. The news report of the guy is like, who fucking knows? I'm fat and I'm going to die soon. So
pretty much.
So, yes, the original Night of the Living Dead is, I'm going to be honest with you, one of my least favorites of this set. I came to it late after having already seen Dawn and Day. And don't get me wrong, I understand the appreciation for it. But I've always been a bigger fan of the 1990 remake that was produced by Romero and directed by Tom Savini. I think as far as that version of the story is concerned, the 1990 version is the best. But there's charm in how over the top for the time period Romero's black and white commentary on racism actually was.
Yeah, and a lot of really good story here, and there's a whole lot of creepy throughout the whole thing. You never really, there's a sense of dread around every corner, and I'm waiting because what a zombie is, what a zombie does. I'm just waiting for the little girl in the basement to do something bad.
Yeah, man. Well, that's a consistent point. I think the parts that I have issue with it are, it was filmed in choppily during night and day, so it's hard for the film to maintain its creepiness the whole time. It does it does do a lot for gore in an era when you just didn't get gore. So that's impressive. I'm already knowing to use pig entrails for the people who start eating bodies. You see that and you're sitting going, am I actually watching this in a 1968 movie? Really?
Yeah, the really great practical effects in a time that didn't really have them. And to your point, it wasn't really a thing, gore and stuff in horror movies even. So this was groundbreaking, I guess, in a way you would say.
Yeah, they had to basically film it off studio, which explains why they didn't secure the copyright, because they didn't really fucking know what they were doing at the time.
Yeah.
But it does make for a very interesting and convincing 1960s horror movie. I just think that if you go to it after watching all the other zombie movies that have come out, even just from Romero, it's less scary.
Yeah, it definitely is. I can appreciate the original horror of it, and I feel like,
Hmm.
you know, if you saw this when it first came out in the '60s, you would have been scared to death. It would have been like, you know, the worst thing you'd ever seen. You're not going to sleep for weeks. But definitely, you know, when we've seen a lot worse
Yeah.
throughout other movies, and even, you know, to your point, the remakes and all, and the
Hmm.
other iterations of it, it's got some charm, it's got some originality, but it's not what I would call scary.
No, I think the 1990 version is better, if for no other reason than it also makes Barbara into an actually interesting character, as opposed
Right.
to the person we're introduced to the zombie apocalypse with, who's then 5 minutes in catatonic for the rest of the fucking movie. Like, she is useless in that movie.
Yeah, a wasted character
Wasted.
almost. You know, yeah,
Yeah, and then she just goes like, "Oh, my brother, look, he can't be a zombie," and then gets herself at, and you're like, "Well,
yeah,
bye, Barbara." So
yeah, yeah.
they, they
Anyway,
they came for you, and now we're moving on.
yeah,
But no,
yeah,
like
yeah.
the 1990 version makes her an actual empowered character who, and the only person to actually fucking survive, which is interesting. And
Hmm.
it does soften the racism of it, because in the 1960s, racism was a big deal. So when the black
Yeah,
character is the only one to survive, and then he gets shot by the police, you're just like, well, yep, that was expected.
I don't know how we didn't see that one coming.
Right? Oh, he, like, even if they knew he wasn't a zombie, you're sitting there going, "Well, he's probably dead anyway."
I mean, it's I was
Yeah,
refreshing myself on it. I thought the same thing.
yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, well, but how did you know? Well, I mean, did they really care? I don't think
They
they
wouldn't have
did.
cared. No, I mean, the movie makes it out that they didn't know, but at the same
Right.
time, would they have stopped themselves anyway?
I don't think so. It's an opportunity, I guess you would say.
There's a Key and Peele sketch that's about like aliens instead of zombies, but it's like the two of them are trying to figure out who's like a human or an alien, and like a
Mhm.
redneck comes like, "Come join our community," and then he gets shot, and they're like, "How'd you know he's an alien?" He wants us to join his community. Him?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the same
yeah.
kind of thing with this. Like here, the white cops rescuing the black guy. Are they really gonna let him live? Is that really gonna happen in 1968?
Yeah,
I don't.
probably not, but you
Probably
know,
not.
it was revolutionary, I guess you'd
Hmm.
say, and you know, and
Yeah.
it definitely just you're like, oh, he got out, we go, oh,
Oh.
oh,
Oh.
wow, way to
Yeah.
leave me with a kind of a feeling.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, like, and it's interesting that each of them has this message about the time period they're in, because you go from like racism of the 1960s, and like the sci-fi fears of nuclear apocalypse, and that came from space and all that. That was such a big part of the 50s and 60s, into the
Yeah,
70s with Dawn of the Dead, and the big worry that Romero had, or the mirror he was shining on humanity, was our own mass consumerism.
yes, a
Yes.
lot of the hedonistic lifestyle that these people enjoyed in their tower or whatever you want to call it. Like,
Basically, yeah,
yeah,
like he comments on it again in Land of the Dead, but with a different perspective, which I don't like,
mhm,
because Land of the Dead sucks. But
mhm,
Dawn of the Dead is interesting because it's like it's at the height of when malls were starting to come around, and
right,
despite the fact that the zombie is going on around them and there's horror from that, at the same time, it spends a certain amount of time just lovingly letting these people steal everything they want from this mall that they've secured as their giant fortress.
yeah, treating it as their own like personal piggy bank and
Hmm.
whatnot, and like whatever they want, they're going to take and fortify and just, you know,
Hmm.
live this lap of luxury while death is knocking outside. Like, I
Yeah.
guess that's fine.
But it also, I mean, I love Dawn of the Dead. I think it's a great movie. It's
Mhm.
scarier. I mean, it
Yeah,
is very much of the time period because it feels very 70s. Like,
right.
not just from the fashion and the arcade games they play in their big mall and all that, but just
Mhm.
like interestingly, the mall itself feels like any mall you could go to today because they haven't really changed. But like
Mhm.
just the way they talk and act and the pacing of the movie, it feels very 70s.
Yeah, and it's got some high points, some low points.
Hmm.
I do like the relationship between, you know, the three main characters. I think it's quite good. But I mean, the
Well,
biker gang at the end.
when we
Hmm?
say the three main characters, do we mean the two cops and the girl, the cop, the girl, and the pilot?
The pilot,
Okay,
the cop, and the girl. Like,
the
I don't
black cop.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The other guy, like,
He
I'm
so yeah, because I have an issue with him, which is
mhm,
he decides to do something stupid and he gets himself bit. But
right.
I don't really feel like the development for him doing that stupid thing is really in the movie. And I've watched all three cuts. I don't
Yeah,
feel like his sudden like freak out and getting himself bit is really suits the character that we knew up to that point.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of him to begin with, and then
Hmm.
at the end of the movie, it just really solidified for me. Like, I just don't like you as a character, and I'm not rooting for you.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel that way about the pilot. He's a douche.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like the people that I don't want to say like that are in charge, the people that have like, I think the remake of this movie with the
Hmm.
guy who had the boat, and he's like, oh, you never let the other people do the work, you make them do the work for you. You don't do the work and lift the finger when you have the way to
Hmm.
get people out or whatever. Like, I kind of got that impression from this guy in a way, and like it's. I don't know. I just didn't like the other guy more.
Well, the two characters you actually end up liking are the ones that survive, and I think that's
Right.
also a commentary on it, like entitlement and police and all that shit that goes with it. It's
Mhm.
of the time period for sure, but it's a better crafted movie, and it has a very interesting soundtrack. But it's I think it's of the three, I think it's the one that's aged the best, just because it started from such a good place, and
Mhm.
despite its '70s trappings, still holds up even now.
Yeah, and very successful too,
Hmm.
monetarily. I mean, a budget of $640,000 and it made 66 million at the box office. That's quite an ROI there for a zombie movie in the 70s.
Could you imagine anyone making a movie for $640,000 now? Like,
You can't even make that with like your own like, personal equipment at home.
and and to
It's crazy.
and to do it on the scale that they did, even in the 1970s, that's insane.
I know. I mean, they must have like really knew somebody who could like get them into this
Hmm.
mall, like to kind of like after hours kind of thing. Let us film our movie here, and we'll do some product placement or whatever you want to say. Like, I don't know. It was
So
interesting.
$5 for each extra. Don't tell the studios that we're hiring you for that little. Just come be on screen. Yay!
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you were going to say with the bikers. I want to hear your commentary. But the bikers do, of course, uh, emblem are emblem. The bikers are, of course, emblematic of the big fear that, especially from this movie forward, for any Zompox movie, it's not the zombies you have to worry about. It's the humans.
That's the thing. Like that was something that I wanted to point out that I really liked
Hmm.
because like you got a lot of that in like before it really tanked, and we're talking about Night of the Living Dead, not The Walking Dead, but The Walking Dead gave you that as well. That like
Uh-huh.
who are the Walking Dead? Is it the zombies or is it the people waiting to die trying to survive? Like,
Hmm.
who are they? And it really made you understand, to your point, that like the fear is not so much the zombies, the fear is the other people that you don't know, who can you trust.
Hmm.
And the biker gang that comes in at the end here was just very stereotypical to me of like, we're gonna come in, we're gonna crash, we're gonna burn, we're gonna take what we want.
We don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't care.
Not that they're that different from the people that hole up in the mall.
Right,
It's
right,
just that they're ruining a good thing as opposed to just letting the people be. So, like,
exactly.
you pass judgment, but should you pass judgment? I guess.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Like, it's you the people that were in the mall are the
Hmm.
ones that were basically doing the same thing, letting people, just keeping people out, just
Yeah.
solidify, and now these people are coming in and trying to take what you have, and now like all of a sudden you don't like that. Well,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I've a shallow watching of this, which I've done several times, and I just enjoy it for what it is. Like the
mhm.
biker gang is the villains, but when you stop and really think about it, no one comes away pure in this film
Yeah.
at all. Like, because it's like you've got all these resources. It's more food and everything than you could ever possibly want for the rest of your lives. Do you
Hmm.
even think about trying to put up signs to let anyone else in or find someone?
Yeah.
No, they don't do any of that. There's no,
Nope.
hey, we have supplies. Come talk to us. It's just we're gonna hide here and wait
Hmm.
out the apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and like they're just gonna, take care of themselves, and
Yep.
there's something to be said, in many situations for looking out for number one. Like, I get it,
Hmm.
but at the same time, like there's strength in numbers, and four, it's not enough. That's
Not
all I'm gonna
enough. No,
say. Not
you
enough.
you are not rebuilding the human population with four people and only one
No,
woman. Like that is
no,
not happening.
that's a lot of work for that poor woman.
She gonna be very busy.
Yeah,
That's all we're saying.
and then I was pregnant the rest of my life.
Right, guys, stop. I need a break. Can you just give me five? Okay.
Put the dick down.
But it's an interesting perspective to take on the movie when you really think about it, because the next film, Day of the Dead, which is my personal favorite. I tend to find
Yeah.
like the setup to be scarier and more interesting. But
Hmm.
the main characters, the woman and the two like helicopter people that she knows, they're
Hmm.
actually the heroes, and they're out and out heroes because they're going out risking their life to try and find survivors.
Right.
Whereas the people they're living with, the army dudes, they don't give a flying fuck. They're just like, we're done with this at this point. Let's just hide and stop testing these zombies and stop trying to see if anything can be rebuilt because the world is over.
It's really like this movie is where it really to me it gave you that little twist here, like the military that was supposed to protect you is now maybe your greatest fear again, and then we're back to the topic of
The
like
politics.
who really is the threat here, and
Mm-hmm.
the people that are supposed to be protecting you are now the ones that you fear the most.
Yeah.
And you want to keep them around. They're military, they're trained, they can protect you in situations, but now you got to do what they say, and I mean, it's not so great.
Yeah, well, and the film doesn't address it too deeply at all. There's a couple snide comments from the guys, but there's also this underlying fear of it. Not only that the humans are the ones that you have to worry about, but there's only one woman in this entire facility of like 20 dudes. Like, if they turn on her, she fucked, and not in the
Yeah.
fun way. It's
No.
not going to go well for her at all. And so, like, the movie doesn't address that too deeply. But
Hmm.
that's there, and that's one of the many creeping things about it. But it's interesting also that when you look at it, the first and the second movie really start from the same place. Night
Hmm.
and day, night and dawn. They start at the start of the apocalypse, and day is some indeterminate number of years onwards at this point. So
Yeah.
all hope is gone. There's no thought about trying to maybe we come back from this. Like now, it's how do we live in a world that's basically all zombie.
Yeah, try and like I like the little the aspect of the doctor trying to train and domesticate them. It's a theme we've seen like
Bub,
in other movies. Yeah, Bub. We've
bub.
seen this in other movies before with like where the creator thinks they can control their creation kind of thing,
Yep.
and it never really works out well. And I do like the little the reference of calling the doctor Frankenstein because playing with reanimated corpses and whatnot. Like I do like the little play on
He
words
was
right there.
creepy. He was just
Yeah.
he'd gone around the bend like all the soldier guys had. The only people who managed to keep their humanity and their sanity were the ones that were still trying to rebuild.
Right.
Yep. So I like this one a lot. I think it's great. The original plan for this was supposed to have not just the army base that the people live in underground, but it was
Mhm.
also supposed to have another like city off to the side. I think it works better where there's no hope of some other civilization, no
Right.
above ground town. But George Romero apparently felt like that idea was still worth exploring, as well as the idea of taking zombies and making them smart, because that's
Mhm.
the whole plot of the fourth movie. And wow, the fourth movie's a turd.
This was where I left off. And
It's a turd.
and yeah, this left me with a bit of a sour taste.
Yep.
Afterward, I felt almost a little dirty after watching this again. I was like, yeah, this is the one that I just really didn't like. I mean, I get it. We're back into the whole aspect of this. Life of luxury for few and poverty for the rest kind of thing.
Which is relevant. It's relevant now.
It is. But like there's no character really in this movie that I even really liked, period.
No. I can't remember anyone. The only character I can remember that like stands out in my mind at all, and I've watched this movie a couple times, is the smart zombie who gathers other zombies with him and kills everyone.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, well, I don't even know his name, but I can see him in my mind, so I know what he looks like. He's the big guy. He's basically the evolution of Bob, but a different actor.
Yes.
And he's interesting.
Former NFL and college athlete, that guy, by the way.
There you
Which I
go,
thought, they got the right big person to play that role. So.
Big Daddy, yep, that's the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like he's like his concept is interesting. He's a zombie, so he doesn't get a lot of character, but his concept is interesting. And I feel like there's just too many elements at play. The raiding party who tries to break away from the city, and the city that's going to get raided by these smart zombies, and it's all just kind of intermixed together with no one that you even care about whatsoever, as you pointed out. It just it limps along for 2 hours and is just a bad conclusion to the original quadrilogy of films.
Yeah, there was a, I mean, I'm looking at the Wikipedia just to see like, is there anybody on here that like I mean, John Leguizamo, I kind of forgot.
Yeah, he's there.
Like,
He's a slimy, smarmy dude who gets his comeuppance. Yeah,
but I mean, like there's really nobody in this movie that is a redeeming, endearing character. I mean, you could probably say the vehicle, the Dead Reckoning, is like the one thing you might give a shit about. The rest of it is trash.
Which honestly, that would have been a much better name for the movie than Land of the Dead. With Dead Reckoning. Right.
Yeah,
It's right that you have it in the movie. It's right there. Name your movie that, or go with the original title, which would have been Twilight of the Dead. Like
it's like they've heard Dead Reckoning, or like, shit, that was good. We got to get that somehow. We got to get it in there somehow. How are we going to do that? Oh,
yeah. Why didn't we think of that? Shit.
Yeah, damn. Where were you 20 minutes ago?
Right? When we set this thing in stone and did press materials, what? No.
Yeah, but I mean, to your point, and like we've said, it's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie.
This was the last Romero movie that I saw, and I mean, it feels good to go back and watch Night and Dawn and Day again. Like those are good movies,
legitimate classics.
Yeah, classic movies of the genre. Great zombie flicks. You know, they get better each time. A little bit extra is added in, and but this one, just I did not like anything about this movie.
No, it's interesting too because this was the movie he wanted to make for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen other people, masters of their genre, come back after like 20 years and nail it. Like down the road, we got Fury Road from George Miller. And I'm like, I think honestly, having the 20, 30 years to work on that movie only made it better. This one, you're sitting there going, you worked on 20 years and this is the best you could come up with? Is this? Really?
I feel like, you know, with the scale of this movie and with the amount of characters that are thrown at you that you don't even really have time to get attached to, which is another reason that I don't really care about any of these people. They're dead before I even knew them. It felt like it was just a lot thrown into a very short period of time. And 2 hours is not a short movie. Like that's a pretty long movie, even for, you know, the late 2000s, middle 2000s there, when a nice crisp 90 to 100 minutes was a good movie length. It's not a short movie really, but it's just bad.
It is. Now, I know you haven't seen the last two. I'm going to probably go against popular opinion on this. And Diary of the Dead is Romero trying to scrape together a zombie movie without any studios wanting to give him a big budget for it. He got his big budget. He made Land of the Dead, and everyone's like, well, this tanked. Because it was bad. It was just bad. But so he got a small budget and he did a found footage horror movie, which is interesting. Not his genre, kind of weird that he did it, but within the context of what it is, people at the outset of the outbreak once again, grouping together in an RV and kind of traveling across the country to see what's going on and like record it on their camcorder or whatever to upload online later. It's not a bad movie. It hits little vignettes. It does the various ideas. It goes to some survivors. They meet up with some guys that steal a bunch of their shit. There's other stuff, and then they end up at like some dude's mansion, and then like zombies break in. So it hits a bunch of little ideas, and I think it works in regards of it doesn't try for a large narrative. It just kind of does the Cloverfield, see what happens during an outbreak kind of thing. So in that regard, it freed Romero up to do a decent film, but it wasn't like even when that movie came out in 2006 or so. Found footage was already starting to feel pretty tired.
Yeah, you know, Blair Witch kind of did that. I mean, I guess I would say, you know, the right way, or it was at least the first one that I can remember that really did it and was like, damn, this is like a really good movie. This is scary. Like, you know, there was a portion of me when I first saw that where I was like, is this real? Like, this feels real almost. And it was kind of like that, you know, but this one, I'm going to watch this one based off of what you said. And I read about it a little bit so I could talk about it, but I had not seen it. But it does seem like out of the two that I have not seen, this had the most interesting concept.
It had potential.
And it really seemed to have some good thought put into it, I think, from what I read. And looking at here, there's some little voiceovers here by some quite famous, you know, people of horror that I think are quite interesting. Tarantino, Craven, and Stephen King all lend their voices as newsreaders, which I think is great. And also Simon Pegg and Guillermo del Toro, which he got quite a few of like his friends, I guess, together on a call. Like, hey guys, you want to lend your voice to the movie that I'm doing real quick? Yeah, sure, we'll give you 5 minutes. Like, it's neat, I think.
Simon Pegg did enjoy having a friendship with George Romero. Like they made Shaun of the Dead, and Romero loved it.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
then he invited Pegg and Frost to be zombies in Land of the Dead afterwards, which was great, even if the movie sucked. So,
Yeah.
like Shaun of the Dead is a better zombie film for the era than Land of the Dead is. But Diary has its moments. Like it is a found footage, low budget horror movie, so you have to go in expecting that. But if you can, it's one of his better movies. Maybe not as good as his trilogy, but still better.
Yeah.
So much better than Survival of the Dead, which is just a. It's like he just can't let go of like the wanting to do like a specific style of film. And it's like two sides of an island split by a Hatfield and McCoy style like bitterness and
Yeah. That was all I took away when I read it. I'm like, this
yeah.
feels very Hatfield McCoy right now.
Yeah, and then something about trying to get the zombies to not eat human and eat something else instead, which is weird because I could swear the zombies would just eat anything that moved and would eat the meat, and it's not like they weren't eating animals to begin with. It's just that we didn't care. They were eating us, and that was the problem.
Yeah, and I feel like you're right. Like, I know I've seen them eat horses and other, media, and I've seen them eat, I'm sure that they've eaten cats, dog. Well, actually, in Dawn of the Dead, the remake, they did send the dog through the field of zombies and didn't eat them. Interesting.
It's fast zombies and it's Snyder. I don't care.
Fair enough. That wasn't Romero, so that's a very good point.
Yeah. No, I don't pay attention to whatever Snyder put into his films because as much as the genre basically saw Snyder's money that he made, I was like, let's do this for ourselves. It's not the same kind of anything that's rage infected or feels like rage infected humans is something else altogether, and it's actually a major issue I have with a lot of the remakes because there was a Day of the Dead remake that also had Ving Rhames and when Nina Suvari, and that was trash, and that was basically fast zombies. It was so dumb. There was Day of the Dead Bloodline, which was like kind of a remake, but kind of also not, and that's not a bad movie for like real shit low budget horror. But again, it's like they can't quite settle on if they want to do fast or slow or what, and the storytelling gets muddled, and that's a problem. Like, if you move away from slow zombies and the creeping dread of them, and the fact that they are supposed to reflect a mirror of ourselves, our own tendency to group up and just go with the flow and like let our brains rot. Then you've lost the whole point of them. You're just making rage monsters, and they can be scary on their own, but they're not zombies.
Yeah, the whole creeping and just coming from around the corner thing, and the slow drag of like hearing a foot across the floor. There's a certain horror in that, and a certain terror that can't be captured, even when something threatening and growling and clawing and chasing you. It's scary in its own right, but there's something about the original that can't be duplicated.
Yeah, when you think about like Day of the Dead, the zombies get into the military base. Like the captain, the dumbass evil captain, he sees a couple walking towards him, so he runs down a hallway and like books it down, leaving them in the dust. And then like he goes to a door, opens the door, and all these zombies come pouring out. And like he can either be eaten by the pack, or he can run back and be eaten by the two that are just enough to fill the hallway. But either way he does it, he's screwed. And like if you make them fast zombies, all of that creeping sense of impending doom you can't escape is just gone because they're already on you. It doesn't even matter. Yeah. So I love the genre. I think by and large I stick to the original three, or like the 1990 remake, which had his seal of approval, and the other two, because it's just those are the ones worth watching.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm gonna watch Diary because that sounded interesting. But I mean, Survival, I'm gonna just chalk us up to talking about it, and I'm good.
you don't, unless you're an absolute Romero head and you have to see everything, which clearly you're not, or you would have. Survival's skippable, and that is the thing. Like, if you really want to watch anything with Romero that's good, go with the original three and go with Diary, and then just skip the rest. Because Anyway, that's my zombie rant. I got to do it. Yay!
Yay zombies!
Yay zombies! All right, this has been Not So Live from Asteroid G, not creeping slowly down a hallway trying to eat you. I'm Mike Finkelstein.
And I'm Ghoul Mike over here.
Ooh, Ghoul Mike. Ooh.
Yes.
Do you make graveyard puns like the Crypt Keeper? Exactly. Lacey.
Yes, yes.
It's been a real scare tonight.
Scream, everyone.
We'll see you guys next time.